I think we need to get these Wordsworths in order, because I'm getting a little bit sick of Reese Mogg, and unfortunately, Jacob Reese Mogg is cheering on Galloway because he's banking on all or nothing, and Galloway needs to know better if he wants to be an MP again. So I'm going to call these Wordsworths out now, because I think that even though they believe they're clarified and they believe they're clear, the volume and amount of other matters that I've pulled the government on very, very important clauses based on statute law, what they've got wrong, severely wrong, that I'm not wrong on this either. And that is the basis of this complaint. Now, unless the schedules of this act say otherwise, and the version of this document which is available, this Representation of the People Act 1948, it's not searchable. So that means that the PDF version that Parliament have supplied, when you type in the search field, you can't type for words. So it takes longer to search the document. And that means it's going to take me a long time to... I don't think there's anything in these schedules that adds definitions or terms or meaning. So I'm going to go on what the exact provisions say in detail, right? And I'm going to tell you now, I think the word monetization and whom is the publisher are going to be very important on this. Where's the money coming from for GB News? Where is the money? Who's paying the money? Because in elections and so forth, it's important to know where the money's coming from. That's why they say who it's paid for by, but it doesn't matter who it's paid for by, who's paying them. When you put an advert on YouTube or so forth, they want to know who's paying for it. So they know what country you're coming from, what country you're in. But I don't really think that matters, actually. I think it's another big YouTube flaw, like the YouTube flaw with the political rights and copyright. But anyway, I'm going to start with this provision here. It says... So it's about this section 43, right, goes on about, bans and canvassing and so forth, right? The said section 17 shall continue to prohibit the engagement or employment for payment or promise of payment of any person as a canvasser, and accordingly in subsection 1, therefore, for the words, for any purpose or in the capacity towards, there shall be submitted the words as a canvasser. The following provisions of Corrupt Practices Act shall see to have effect, namely, Section 7, so far as it prohibits payments or contracts for payment in respect of committee rooms and excess of a specified number. Well, it's not a committee room, is it, when you're on GB News? But we know where the money's coming from. It's coming from YouTube. They're paying the money out, and it's in dollars. And it's the broadcaster is paying monies from America. Therefore, you're under employment of a foreign broadcaster. Section 16, except, and it's not about Reese Mogg getting paid by GB News, who's paying GB News that is employing Mogg. Section 16, except insofar as it relates to bans of music, torches, flags, and banners. So, Section 16 is omitted from the Corrupt Practices Act, except, so it doesn't omit. So, music is covered by the Corrupt Practices Act, torches are covered by the Corrupt Practices Act, flags and banners. Subject to the next following subsection 17, which relates to paid employment. So that bit is omitted. The said Section 17 shall continue to prohibit. The said Section 17 shall continue to prohibit the engagement or employment for payment or promise of payment to any person as a canvasser. Any person. So that can be Mogg, right? If he is self-canvassing. If he is self-canvassing. Now that's the question. The question comes down to either way. Is Reese Moggs self-canvassing for himself, for his own gain? And does that give him an advantage in the election? And in connection with that canvassing, is he receiving payments? And regardless of how much GB News is paying him, I don't care how much GB News is paying him, and if it's in Tokyo or Great Britain or on the Rock of Gibraltar. Where is the money from GB News for that broadcast coming from? The money, the monetization for GB News, where actually it doesn't even matter whether it's monetized or not, if it were monetized, but GB News is coming from YouTube. It actually is coming from YouTube. I don't think they are monetized because it doesn't show adverts when you watch it, but we'll find out. Because what they're doing is they're paying Reese Mogg out of GB News money, but GB News is on the platform which is American. And we'll get to that in a minute. But he's still receiving, he himself is receiving payment from GB News whether or not it comes from YouTube or not. To prohibit the engagement or employment for payment of promise of payment for any person. So he can't be employed by GB News. And accordingly, in subsection 1 thereof, the words from, for any purpose or in any capacity, onwards, there shall be substituted the word as canvasser. So, this is the thing, when an MP appears as a guest on a programme, they're invited on, but they don't get a wage. They don't get paid. And this, you can go to Professor Tim Wilson, you can go to Ofcom, you can go to what you want. But regardless of what type of programme it is, regardless of what subject they're talking about or they're meant to be talking about, it's got nothing to do with how things are influencing or affecting the public and who's getting promotion out of it. The fact is, Reese Mogg, regardless of whether YouTube in San Bruno are giving monies to GB News or not, GB News is employing Mogg, and for that money he receives massive sum. He is gaining canvassing for himself, and he is a member of Parliament. And it's got absolute, I don't know where they got this member of the cabinet from, because they were arguing on completely different points. Ofcom was making up their general regulations and that other legislation, which is all based actually from, this is earlier than that, and it's all based on the same point, that it matters what type of programme it is. It's actually got nothing to do with what the type of programme it is in law. All that does is generalise. They're supposing that a certain type of programme will be likely to or tend to cover a subject or not. But that's got absolutely nothing to do with the letter of the law. The letter of the law says what actually is being said and what is the actual influence. There is no categorizing or classifying and supposing or presupposing, right? It's actually what is the effect and whom is the person. What is the effect and whom is the person? That is what the law is on. And he's being paid money and he is gaining a electoral advantage. And he's self-promoting and that affects his election. That is it. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with what type of programme it is, whether it's a news programme or current affairs. That is a complete and total blag. Also, it's got absolutely nothing to do with if you are a member of the cabinet or not. Whether you're a member of a cabinet or whether you're a member of parliament is absolutely irrelevant. It's got zero relevance to this legislation at all. So why even raise it up and mention it? It's got zero relevance at all whatsoever. It matters that if you are elected or likely to be running for election and what the advantages are to be gained or maybe to be gained or being gained from your broadcasting that you are actually receiving money for and not invited on as an unpaid guest. Because I really don't think that when the news invite MPs on ITV, it's a privilege to be invited onto the programme. You know, they invite the government on to answer some questions. It's part of the government job. We actually already pay the MPs out of public money to represent us and appear on programmes. The public pays an MP to make announcements, make speeches and be answerable on the television, right? That's the difference. I don't know why Mogg doesn't get this. He's gambling, a very big gamble, because he's pulling a lot of people into it. And what they're doing is they want to reform the media. They want to reform. Well, that's why they've got the Reform Party. They don't want this to be the law anymore in the case, but it is. And they're rebelling. It's like Extinction Rebellion. And Mogg is breaking the law at the moment illegally. And he's also getting and you know that part they said about Parliament, you know, to do with, what's their primary income? Well, it doesn't matter what's your primary or secondary income. It doesn't actually matter what, if you're getting paid more money from being Parliament or more money on GB News, and which is your main job or isn't. According to this, if you're getting an income, if you're getting monies, if you're receiving monies in connection with getting a canvassing advantage, that is a corrupt practice. I don't think Mogg is scared enough, and this is not a threat. This is the law. This is the law, and we're talking about policing the law. This is what police do when they warn someone to step back. Now, Mogg is on the front line of rebellion on behalf, and he's trying to sell a lie to the public on behalf of all of Parliament, who are all in on it, and his party, because they want to sell us, pitch to us that they can do it and they can carry on doing it and that it's okay. Just like they've sold us the lies that, you know, you can't submit petitions about personal grievances when it's in standing orders, 152. All of the lies that they're selling us, like you can't petition about this or that, when you can. The standards are only how fit and form the letters are. Now, we'll go to... Right then, Wordsworth. Right?